Okay, my clock says it's noon, so I want to welcome everybody to our second webinar of 2022. I'm glad that you're here today. I want to introduce our guest who is coming to us from Oslo, Norway. Our guest is Maestro César Cañon, who is currently working with Opera and Ballet Norsk in Oslo, Norway. César received his bachelor's degree from the National University of Columbia, and then he went on to University of Michigan to complete his master's degree and PhD. He came to the San Francisco Adler Fellow program for two seasons, 2018 and 2019. When we last saw César, it was at our Cosima party in 2020, and it was really wonderful to announce that he was our stipendiat for the following year Bayreuth Festival, which was COVID canceled. However, they went ahead and performed last year, 2021, and César was able to attend. So we want to welcome César, and we want you to catch up with us today and let us know what's been going on in your life. You made the move to the other northern hemisphere, way north from where you came from, way south in the southern hemisphere. And I'd like to hear about what it was like moving from the US over into Norway.
Thank you for your welcome. It's good to be here, and I miss you all. First of all, it's been a minute, and moving was an adventure. The last time that we saw each other, we hadn't declared a pandemic started anything, and a few months after we saw each other, I learned of the job offer here in Norway, decided to take the opportunity. And right after I accepted that opportunity, COVID-19 was declared an emergency globally, and every office of immigration in every country closed. So my then fiancée, now wife, Elise, and I were essentially stuck waiting for paperwork. So we ended up having to wait an extra month to move to Norway. Everything was a bit in the air. So we stayed in California a couple months. Then we moved to Montana, where she is from, for 2 months during the summer of 2020, and finally moved to Oslo in September. I have been working here at the Opera House, at the Norwegian National Opera in Oslo. I am opera repetitor, and I am assistant chorus master. And it has been a very strange first season, of course, with cancellations, with the opera keeping us all in our contracts. So we have to find ways to work and keep in shape, to be prepared for when things were open again. Then for a brief moment after the third wave in Europe, we opened the theaters and cultural life started again in Norway. But right at that moment, a strike of the culture sectors began in Norway. So we were 7 weeks on strike, and we had two more cancellations, this time not COVID related. Now it seems like we're finally going back into normalcy. Originally, we were meeting an hour earlier than today, but I emailed Terry earlier this week that I was asked the last minute to conduct the backstage chorus in Rigoletto, which finished 20 minutes ago. So and that's why we moved it to noon. So now we're working on Rigoletto. In 2 weeks, we open Yenufa. It's been a wonderful show, wonderful new production of Yenufa. And we have an exciting season. I will be chorus master for an upcoming reprise of Barbiere di Sevilla coming here. Then we do a Carmen, and we already have a very exciting fall announced. It includes some Bernstein, some Strauss, some Berlioz, etc. So things are picking speed back up. Absolutely in love with Oslo. I miss San Francisco and the community there a lot, but I am also happy to share with all of you that I will be coming back. So I will briefly be in the Bay Area in July, accompanying the James Toland competition. And then I will come back for a longer period in the fall. I will be working in the production of Orpheus by Gluck, and I will be playing the continuo in the orchestra.
Wow, that's exciting. That's really, really exciting. So, well, Um, the reason why I invited you is because our members are really excited that we are, as far as I know right now, the only North American Wagner Society who participates in the Bayreuth Stipendiat program. And you are our third stipendiaten. So I really want to hear what that experience was like for you. And I know at our party, when I announced that you were going to be going, I offered that you would probably be staying at the university in crappy dorm rooms. And the crappy dorm rooms, I guess, were not considered safe for the stipendiaten. So let's hear what happened when you went to Bayreuth finally, because it got COVID canceled too.
Okay, so, indeed, I remember when I spoke in our meeting together, I said I never got to live in college dorms when I went to college, so Bayreuth was my chance, but apparently I missed that chance too, thanks to COVID. It was much more luxurious, I must say, in all senses. The stipendiating group that I was a part of was a group of 60 people, and I was told when we arrived there that generally they would have somewhere between 200 and 240. So we had an elite group of 60 stipendiaten that were lucky enough, and we were in double accommodations. I don't know enough about this, but my roommate for the festival was, I think he had an award from a Wagner Society in New York.
Oh, okay, that's new.
Okay.
Okay.
And
well,
it
good
does.
on them. That's wonderful.
Don't quote me on this, but he might have been the first stipendiat from New York.
Okay. Well, at the time you were going over, there wasn't anybody else active with this program. So good for them. It's really a wonderful program, and I'd like to hear more.
Yes, my roommate, for example, it made me think of you guys because before me, Arya Umezawa, director, was the stipendiat for 2019. Yes. And I roomed with a young director, a film director. I can't remember right. I think he was from a small town in North Carolina, but he was going to school in New York. And his life project, if he can make it happen, is to combine Wagner opera and film. So he would love to direct some kind of mixed media integration of Wagner, and he has some really interesting footage already of Parsifal that he has been working for years. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. So as I was telling you, we didn't get to do dorms. We were in Hotel Rheingold in Bayreuth. Quite a wonderful experience. I prepared a little photo album. I don't know if we have enough time.
Go ahead. It would be wonderful to see your vacation photos.
Okay, let me see how I have never been. Here it is, share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having a bit of a. Okay, here we go. My computer is trying to protect me too much and ask me for passwords to allow Zoom. So, Terry, I'm getting a message that says you can choose, in order for the presentation to be recorded, I have to quit and reopen. Would you mind if just for a minute I quit and reopen the conversation?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go ahead and do that? And then maybe I can have Emma show our landing slides, or I can introduce. I'll just introduce. You go ahead and do your thing and come back in.
Rejoin in a second. Yes.
Right, and I will go ahead and tell people about what's going to be coming up, because
Perfect.
I'm working on the fall schedule so that we can keep going. So next month we're going to be going back to Bayreuth, and we will be inviting in Udo Schmidt-Steingräber, who is the proprietor of the Steingräber piano manufacturer in Bayreuth, and he will talk about the history of the factory, tales of its notable clientele, which included Franz Liszt, who was a famous client of the Steingräbers, Wagner, and also Humperdinck, and that's going to be on Sunday. Now it's on Sunday because this was the request of Herr Steingräber. So, oh, and Cesar is back again. And then we will have a live meeting in April with Jonathan Kuhner and friends. As many of you know, and it's been announced, Pocket Opera will be doing No Love Allowed, which is an English translation of Das Liebesverbot, one of the early operas of Wagner. And Jonathan gave a presentation on Liebesverbot when we were COVID canceled. I think that was a while back, but we're going to relaunch it. And so I invited Jonathan to come back because he's so wonderful to hear and have as a guest. And he'll bring with him a couple people from the production. Now, this is going to be by reservation only. There's limitations right now. I don't know whether they will be lifted, but there's capacity limitations. So we don't want to run afoul of that. So it'll be reservation only on that. And that's going to be on April 16th. And then we're going to have a Ricard birthday celebration on Sunday, May 22nd, coincidentally, Wagner's real birthday. So we can go back to Cesar now, and Emma will stop screen share and Cesar will come on, and hopefully he can do a screen share now, Cesar.
Yes, let me try. It says host disabled. I think you need to make me co-host again, but that
okay, we'll do that, and I will make you host. Whoops, no, not that. More. It's just giving me a pin message now. It's not letting you come in as host.
I think Emma must make me co-host. There I am.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. Okay, I'm going to put that away. All right, and I'll just let Cesar go here, and I will disappear.
Okay, so I prepared a little photo album. This is no sophisticated presentation. Terry and I have been emailing back and forth about sharing my experience, and I think this is a great opportunity to share and show you a few snapshots that I took. It was, as you can see, it's a short trip. It's a week. It was the first time I flew internationally since moving to Norway. So we still had a lot of stress in the air, quite literally, about the pandemic. And just took some snapshots of the trip. The airport, as you can see here, was virtually empty. We had one line or two lines for two flights that were, but we still were not back into activity. I left the lush Norwegian summer. All of the snow was gone and melted. And then I arrived initially into Frankfurt, and I was wondering how people working at the airport would be, how the mask mandate would be. I said, maybe I can ask indications or anything from someone working in the cleaning service or anything. Well, the cleaning service in Frankfurt at certain parts of the airport is these little robots right here, which was something absolutely interesting to me. I flew into Frankfurt from Oslo, and then I had approximately 4.5 hours of a train trip into Bayreuth. This snapshot right here with a church in the distance and lovely hills and lovely forest was essentially what I had. It was a quite lovely trip, no major problems, very fast trains. An interesting fact is German trains are much faster than Norwegian trains. So I arrived in Bayreuth. This is the first thing that I noticed was the oldest brewery in the world. With lovely architecture. It was a lovely walk to the hotel. Behind the hotel, we had this river running, and the streets weren't super busy. People were already on the way for the festival, but there was limited attendance. So the town was not super busy. A very exciting moment was switching trains, when I was switching trains in Nuremberg to go to Bayreuth while listening to Maestro von Nuremberg. It was quite a poetic moment in my journey. Finally, I arrived at Rheingold Hotel, and this is the first thing that you see when you enter Rheingold Hotel, which is Wagner conducting you, and they were funny enough to put a mask on Wagner to remind you of the mask mandate. We were not allowed to take our masks off at all, so I was wearing my mask nonstop except for sleeping the whole week. They were quite strict with this, even with what kind of mask they were. The German equivalent for the N95 was imposed. We had to test every day in the morning before being allowed to do anything else. and we had to wear our mask at all times except for eating. We were greeted with an envelope where I had my certificate of being a stipendiat. It has our names and what we were lucky enough to see. So quite wonderful, signed by. And we were greeted with hot dogs and beer, as you do in Germany. It was quite a lovely reception, and that's where we were told that normally it would be 200 to 240, but this year it was only 60 when we were lucky. It was a very lovely experience to sit down at the table and not know which language to expect or use or be able to understand. I think just the first night we all located who we could understand. I was in the group of the ones that could understand German but not respond at all, thanks to my Norwegian. Some people in my table didn't speak English, and I happened to find a group of Italian pianists with whom I actually spent most of my week. It was quite a lovely welcome. Stop me whenever you need. I'm gonna keep talking, and if you need anything, feel free to interrupt me. Okay. One of the first activities on the second day was going to the Wagner Museum, where we had our first welcome. We had a welcome, I think, every day, and everyone was so polite, and I think every welcome was approximately 2.5 minutes long. It would say, "Good morning, we are happy you're here. Please enjoy what we have prepared for you. Please enjoy the city. Have a nice day." This was the welcome every day from someone different. The first one happened here at the Wagner Museum. We also had the chance to enter. I quickly learned that I forgot an important item in my luggage. I did not bring an umbrella, and every day it rained. It was a lovely summer weather, so it was not a problem to get wet, but you can see here we are all grouped under umbrellas on our welcome speech. I think people are not wearing masks here because we were outside and drinking a glass of champagne to start the Stipendiat week. The house is in such perfect shape. I was so happy to be able to see to see all of the wonderful restoration works. They still do concerts in Wagner's living room. It was a magical moment to enter and see the piano in the middle, not a museum piece piano, but an actual piano that people still perform in. And the walls, you cannot see it in my picture, but covered in books. It's quite a wonderful house, and there is a special feel to that. I included a little bit of a goofy picture here. Terry told me that you told me you received the stipendiat picture where all of us are in the group right in front of Manfred House. While they were taking that, I take the other one. So this is the other perspective from that same situation. Everyone taking the stipendiat picture. I always love these moments of seeing what each party sees. And we had a lovely group of people always leaning a hand, telling us where to go, where to find things, and orientating us in what the tight schedule was, how to navigate it easiest. Here's some of the items that caught my attention. I love that they keep some of Wagner's wardrobe, some of his hats and jackets. And my favorite baton of the day was the one that if I see in the street would never guess anyone used for a baton. It's just a stick. It looks like a stick you would grab from any tree. And he used this to conduct the Siegfried's Idyll at some point. They have plenty of batons around. This one caught my attention. It's thicker, shorter than you're used to. And there it is. At the house too, on the east wing of the house, there is the museum with costumes and sets, and there's a little replica, a scale replica of the theater. And they also have a list of who has worn all of these costumes, who has been in every production, who has directed. It's quite a wonderful room to go and spend a couple hours in. I did not have enough time, so I took pictures of the costumes looking at you, characters from all of Wagner's opera. There's a few lucky non-Wagner operas that made it to the museum too as well. They also host art exhibitions, and this one really felt close to home to me. A quote by the artist: "Sounds are the bubbles on the surface of silence." And you would enter this room with lights and a piano in the middle, and there were sensors that were, depending on where you went in the room, would play different sounds on the piano. It was a sound and light immersive experience, quite interesting. right on the way out from the Wagner part of the museum. It hit close to home because I have to say, I more often than not, I never get the experience of being an audience, of not being performing or of not being taking notes. This week was my week of just sitting back and enjoying, and this was a nice beginning to that. You also get to see manuscripts. There's a wonderful room right next to the room where Wagner is watching you read his scores, where you can turn pages and there's a projection upon a giant book that shows you all different versions of the Meistersinger Overture conducted by Furtwängler, Levine, Barenboim, etc. Each page that you turn in the book in the middle of the room has a different version and explanations about the works. In this case, they were presenting Meistersinger. And I also, because of never being able to sit back and relax, I had to prepare for Dead Man Walking in Oslo after the week in Bayreuth. So I had to ask a favor and find a practice room. And this is the practice room they found me in a local high school. I was very shocked that a local high school has this kind of rooms for music ensemble. It was beautiful. So I'm happy to report that some Jake Heggie music was played and practiced in Bayreuth during August of 2021. A little tour of the city. There's so many charming things, like this giant dinosaur in the middle of the street. Is the first landmark that we noticed as Stipendiat, and we would meet by the dinosaur in the middle of downtown Bayreuth. The streets are in such perfect shape. I went to a concert in this church. The person putting me in contact with the practice room I just showed you was conducting a concert in this church during the week. So I also was able to go to a symphony concert that had nothing to do with the Bayreuth Festspiele. It was the youth festival in Bayreuth. It was quite nice to see it. Another few landmarks that caught my attention. There is the Wagner Walk. So you find statues and multicolored statues of Wagner everywhere in town in a certain route that leads to the theater. And everyone has a fun fact or a historical fact on Wagner. This particular one I took had an article on Wagner and women, and mentioned a couple important names in his story, and they are all over the city. It's quite nice. I had to take a picture with the Maestro himself, of course. This is the street where I found this, and this last landmark, this really called my attention, and I didn't take the time to check whether it's still true or not, but each item on this pole is pointing you to a specific service. So if you need your shoes fixed, you go this way. If you need to clean your clothes, you go this way. If you need a tailor, you go this way, etc. And this, if this is not Meistersinger of Nuremberg, I don't know what is. I loved that this is still standing. It of course at some point was all true. I don't know if it still is, but you cannot miss that. And I just loved it. I loved walking by it every day. One of the many tours that we had the opportunity to do, we visited the city hall, and on top of the building where the city hall is the best views of panoramic views of the city you can get. And they also have a section on Wagner related items. This was Brunhilde's helmet from 1924 to 1931 at the Bayreuth. Here's two different angles of the city, so you can see not a lot of tall buildings, and it's exciting to find a theater right here on top of this hill. This is the Bayreuther Festspielhaus. A few more. That day we had a tour, and as I mentioned earlier, it never stopped raining, and rain does not stop people from Bayreuth. Out in the distance, this was our tour guide who did not stop talking or walking as we tried to find shelter for the rain. She was, when she turned the first time, she was surprised to find that the rain had stopped us. It was quite a funny moment. We had a wonderful tour with a local resident. We visited mostly the fronts of buildings. So this is a palace still standing, and there's a museum right there. That's the fountain inside. And this is the other opera house, the Margräfisches Opernhaus. An interesting story she told us about this building is that this is one of the few buildings. There is a synagogue who also used to be an even older theater than this one, I think a couple hundred years. And during the war, the buildings essentially saved each other from the bombings, because They didn't want to attack the opera house, not to damage the synagogue, and the other side didn't want to attack the synagogue, not to hurt the opera house, which is a beautiful Baroque theater inside. So it's still standing. They have tours, and the tours were fully booked by the time I tried to get one, so I only got to see the front and the pictures online. And these wonderful gardens that you see are part of what was Wagner and Cosima's property in Frankfurt. This is part of the gardens of the Wagner Museum and House. Walking around, other of the events during the week that we had was that there's a ceremonial offering of flowers to Wagner's grave. Wagner's grave is unmarked in the backyard of the house, along with Cosima and their dogs. And they place flowers every festival. We went to that ceremony. One of the stipendiaten was a Chilean trumpet player, and he played during the ceremony as well. That day in the morning before we met, I decided to go and explore the cemetery, and I found this, and I recognized them. Oh, there's a German phrase I recognize. I know that my Redeemer liveth, and I think, okay, that sounds like a musician's quote. And then I looked into, and it's Franz Liszt. It was semi-coincidental. I knew it was there, but I didn't know when I walked close in. And it's a nice moment. I always love finding graves of past masters. It's always a humbling moment for me. That night, this was the third night. So the first night we arrived, second night we watched Tannhäuser, and we'll tell you a bit of what we heard and saw. And the fourth night we had the Stipendiatenabend. It's a concert where some of the Stipendiat perform. A very interesting rule we learned of during the week is that the Stipendiaten are not allowed to perform Wagner on stage. So every single of these young people on the stage proposed to perform Wagner, and every single of these people were asked to change the program. I think it has something to do with not with keeping Wagner in the Festspiel house. But it was a fun night of seeing young people. A lot of these people are under 23. Some singers, some pianists, a violinist, the trumpet player from Chile that I mentioned. It was a fun night, and in another very nice location in town, and that is attached to the young people of Bayreuth Festival. That happens at the same time with the Bayreuther Festspiele. Another of my favorites, and you will be lucky enough to hear a presentation by Otto Steingraber. The Steingraber Piano Factory, definitely wonderful. And during that week, they had a musical promoted, which is Flieg Holländer Flieg. I had to take a picture of it. Unfortunately, we couldn't go see it, but the poster makes me want to. That was probably one of my favorite moments, of course, outside of seeing Wagner's operas. You are in for a treat on March 20th to hear this gentleman speaking about what they do at the Steingraber factory. It was illuminating, it was funny, it was interesting, it was impressive. And you can see all of the rooms. He took us to all of the rooms of the factory where they work with the wood, what kinds of wood they use, how they use carbon fiber nowadays, how they make sure to tune the harp of the piano so that the overtones are right. And he showed us several items. There's historical pianos, and this item that you see here, this is the hammer made for this. These are the Parsifal bells. The bells in Parsifal would be too giant to comfortably move. So Steingraber had the idea of designing bells. So with a modified piano harp and strings, they made a version of Parsifal bells that is made by Steingraber, and we were allowed to play them. It was quite fun. Finally, the main place, we made it to the theater, and we were in a very good way forced to explore the surroundings of the theater, because the first thing we saw was Tannhäuser, and Tannhäuser had an intermission show during which Venus and two accompanying characters in the Tobias Gratzer production are doing protests and doing demonstrations outside by the pond of the opera house. So they do not get a break between Act 1 and 2. they perform Act 1, they perform the intermission show, and during Act 2, there's a live show and cameras on stage showing you what they are doing. They climb through a ladder into the opera house. You think, oh, this is all pre-recorded, but then you come out of the opera house and see the graffiti that they painted and everything. So it was a very spectacular thing to witness the Tobias Kretzer production of Tannhäuser. It was very exciting to get to the theater. We got our first sunny moment was the first afternoon at the theater, and it's just a glorious, beautiful building with wonderful gardens and very well maintained all around. It was the first time since December 2019 that I saw a room so filled with people. I will lie to you if I don't say I almost had a panic attack with how many people were in there. But at the same time, it was magical to see the theater again. There had to be an empty seat between person and person in the theater. So what we're seeing here is half capacity. You can see there's an empty seat between everyone. Quite wonderful. I don't know how many of you have been to the Bayreuther Festspiele. So this will either be a nice memory or a fun fact about the calls before the show. Let's see if it works. Yeah. Could you hear that?
Yes, I could.
So those are the calls. And I said before, rain never stops Bavarians. And here is the proof. So first, second, and third call is always the brass section coming out to play the fanfares from the show that they are performing. First one was Meister Singer, second one was the Flying Dutchman. It was amazing to see that. I was at that moment also with the trumpet player Stipendiat, and seeing his face and our reaction to seeing the fanfare, it was wonderful. And I recorded a bit of the applause. The applause is quite its own event. Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. Here we go. This is from the Flying Dutchman. This sound, I have to say, it brought tears to many of us Stipendiaten who are musicians who had not heard an applause in a long time. Not like that, in a full house, in an excited house, and it was wonderful. And one special thing about the Bayreuth Festspiele house applause is that people stomp their feet against the wooden floor. So you don't only hear the applause, you feel it with all of your body. It's like going to a stadium and people jumping all together. It's quite wonderful. So that is my experience. I apologize. Here we go. After the Flying Dutchman was the only show where we left and there was still sunlight outside, and it was something very special. There was a double rainbow right after we ended the Flying Dutchman. It was quite special. I included 2 pictures here because I want to touch on the networking that happened during the Stipendiaten week. These 2 gentlemen are Italian pianists. He's a staff accompanist at the Detmold Conservatory in Germany, and he is from Padova in Italy, and he is right now doing his doctoral studies in the Eastman School in upstate New York. We're still in touch with both of them. This lady right here in the middle, her name is Lisenka Heiboer Castañón, and I hope that you can remember her name, or at least what she has doing next summer. This upcoming summer, there is a production of Tristan and Isolde in Santa Fe Opera, and she is one of the 2 co-directors. So keep an eye open for this young lady. She's a wonderful director, mostly working right now at the Dutch National Opera. Excellent director, very interesting projects. This gentleman, his name is Gabriel Diaz. He is a trumpet player from Chile. He is based in Paris, and he is a teacher at the Paris, at several Paris regional conservatories. And this lady right here is from Mexico. Her name is Sofia Revueltas. She is related to Silvestre Revueltas, a famous composer. And she is, I forgot which opera house she is at, but she's in the ensemble of a German opera house. Fun experience. the Latinos, I said Lisenka is Dutch, but she is also Peruvian. And of course, the Latinos come to Bayreuth to create disorder in the streets. So one of our last nights, we may or may not have danced in the streets of Bayreuth until late with these people here. It was wonderful networking experience. I think the smaller group of stipendiated allowed for that to happen more easily. I still keep in touch with these people and a few others. That's my little photo album and snippets from Bayreuth. And I see.
Yeah, I'm answering a question here really
Okay.
quickly. Wow, you really had, it sounds like you had a good time. Are you able to hear me?
I am able to hear you, yes.
Okay, good. Because things got messed up again, and I don't know, my face isn't here, which is probably a blessing.
Yes.
So anyway, I think you really covered what it was to be a stipendiaten.
Yes, I've covered everything except for what we actually saw in the Opera House. So I wanted to take a little brief pause here. If you have any questions or comments about this part, which is what it is like to live the week rushing lifestyle with a group of young people that we were all so excited and so honored really to be there and to be able to enter the house and hear stories and just be where it happened. Yeah.
Sounds like something out of Hamilton, to be in the room where it happened.
No, the room where it happened.
So anyway, yeah, it's okay. It looks like we've got a question. Well, someone is asking if you can give an inside view on Lisa Davidson. Was she singing this year?
So that is part of what we did here. So the first show we saw was Tannhäuser, that featured her as Elizabeth. Now I'm lucky enough to work at a theater where Lisa is a frequent guest because she is Norwegian and she comes here very often to do programs at the Norwegian Opera House. I had heard her here from our backstage microphones and speakers, so I knew she was good. But this Tannhäuser was the first time that I saw her from the house and live. And let me tell you, it was absolutely incredible. I'm going to say this not meaning it, but it was incredible almost to a fault because it made every other singer on stage look this small. Her singing is such in control, such a stable color. It's a sound that is big but not overwhelming. She is a wonderful artist, and she was a wonderful Elizabeth in this production. So we saw Tannhäuser, Tobias Kratzer's production, conducted by Axel Kobe, and Venus was Ekaterina Gubanova. Wonderful. She was accompanied by two actors who were like the Venus troops. This production faces the Venus world not like a supernatural thing, but it faces Tannhäuser between traditional medieval-like society and modern times as a member of a circus troupe. So it's the duality between a libertine for the eyes of the conservative older times society versus a circus in more modern times. And Lisa is a wonderful actress. The singing is outstanding, and you can see, and this production has in particular something special is that they put cameras very close to the singers' faces, and you really get to see how they are not only doing gesticulations, their faces are acting and absolutely engaged at all times, whether they're singing or not. And it was so wonderful to see this in this Tobias Kratzer production. They show the backstage, they show cameramen, they show the city, and we had a discussion with one of my colleagues that in a way they go completely against what Wagner planned for the opera to be. Wagner wanted to hide the orchestra, to hide the lights, to hide everything, so that everything that our attention was, it was an immersive attention into the stage. Kratzer's production opens everything up, except maybe for the orchestra, but we see everything that is happening. We see the backstage, we see the city with the outside scene that they stream into the theater, but at the same time, it makes it so that all of these details become part of the art and part of the performance, and it's just so wonderful. It works so well at the house, It is a challenging production because it breaks essentially what would be your screen in the movie theater into two. So you have half a stage open and half of it is a screen, a movie screen streaming what is happening in the parallel world. But it was wonderful. The tenor, the Tannhäuser, was Stephen Gould, also wonderful. So I have to say my three favorites in this production was Stephen Gould, Ekaterina Gubanova as Venus, and Lise was absolutely otherworldly. The second production we saw was the Flying Dutchman. It was great. I have to say something strange of the staging is that there was no water. There was no boat. There was no water. It was an alternate take, and at the end, we see a lot of fire, and we see it's a version in which, in the end, Senta kills the Dutchman. So it takes away the supernatural. It takes away a lot of the sea elements of it, but it's very well done. It's just a little against what you would expect if you have never seen the Flying Dutchman and read the description of it. Our Senta was wonderful as Miki Gregorian, wonderful singer. I hope that you are following her. And we had Georg Zeppenfeld as Daland, and we had Erik Kotler as Erik, and John Lundgren as the Dutchman. It was a very nice production, right in the middle of our week, and it was nice because we came out to still light. We had time to have dinner, to grab a glass, and we came out to do this double rainbow. It was quite fun. So this was Dmitry Cherkianov's production, conducted by Oksana Liniv, female Ukrainian conductor. She did wonderfully. The orchestra sounded my favorite of the three nights, and she is coming back this year to conduct in the festival again in 2022. It was the first time a woman conducted in Bayreuth. And the last one we saw was Meister Singer of Nuremberg in Barikowski's production. Absolutely problematic production for in all ends. It's thought-provoking. It's provocative would be the word that I used to describe it. At the end of Act 2, you have a giant inflatable head of Wagner with I don't know what the Jewish long sideburns are called. I know they have a name. I apologize, I didn't know it. But you see a Jewish rabbi version of Wagner staring at you in the stage on the stage at the end. It essentially Koski's production presents Wagner as the main character. So Hans Sachs is Richard Wagner presenting a defense in a trial. So he's being put in trial, and the whole opera is him talking in the court. So it has to do a lot with all of the complicated relationship with Wagner and his Jewish friends and everything, and it's quite on your face. And it was very interesting at the end of this show to see some people were very uncomfortable, and some people were absolutely excited and so happy to see that message of celebration of the people and everything. But so this Koski production, I definitely recommend that you follow it. It's interesting. Some people were absolutely uncomfortable and say, "What did we just see?" And some people were like, "Okay, I get it." It was wonderful. The cast was outstanding. Conductor was Philippe Jordan, and Hans Sachs was Michael Folle. Incredible, impressive. I think it's some of the most impressive singing and endurance that I have seen. I personally was on the side of people that loved the production. I think I really liked it. We had Zeppenfeld again as Pugna. David was Daniel Belle. Eva was Camilla Nylund, and Magdalena was Christa Meyer. Wonderful production. I have to say, it does not make Meister Singer feel very long, which is something that is not easy to do. So that was the three operas we got to see. Wonderful evenings. Enjoyed my time immensely.
That's wonderful, Cesar. I have a question from someone who you may be very vaguely familiar with. Eiko Kikawada says, "Welcome back to the Wagner Society." And we can open the mic if you want to do an open mic. Cesar can do that for you. She asked, how do they choose the performers for the Stipendiat and final concert? And I think Echo was there when you were there too. Was that correct or not? In Bayreuth.
I can't remember.
Okay, well, anyway, how did they choose the performers for the Stipendiat and final concert? No?
I'm afraid that I do not know the answer, because a lot of the Stipendiaten, when we got there, we knew that some people were performing and we were jealous. We had no idea. I don't know how they choose it. I think it might have to do with biographies and with them studying the background of people. I think there's certain application that some societies did, because the representative for the Wagner Society of Chile was there, and he told us that he asked from the beginning that the Stipendiat from Chile would be performing. So I know that there is a way that the Wagner Society can request that or apply, and there is a proposal. They send a video, and then they propose repertoire, and the festival comes back with options. So a lot of people were asked to change repertoire. A lot of pianists wanted to play Wagner paraphrases, and they were asked to perform something else instead. But something we noticed with a couple of colleagues from here that happened to be that evening in Bayreuth, a couple of colleagues here from the Norwegian National Opera, is that they seemed to choose performers that were on the lower side of experience and age. So a good amount of the performers were on student levels. So they might also try to put people that don't have as much of bio or an artistic experience, to give them a little bit of an extra boost there.
It's wonderful. That's wonderful. And if anybody wants to raise their hand and talk live to Cesar, he's able to open the mic for you. If anybody wants to say hello, I know there's a few people I notice that may want to do that. I don't have any questions open right now. I'm shocked. Frankly, I'm really shocked about that. Oh, here's one. Oh.
I see that.
Deborah Marion says, hello, did you want to talk? Oh, okay. I'll open the mic for you, Deborah. And
Hello,
you can
yeah.
talk.
Hello,
Okay.
Deborah. I think here we are. You are muted at the moment.
Hey, hello. I have my partner Joe Loesch here.
Okay.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh my. I've
Yeah,
never
we can
talked
hear you.
on this before. Oh, Joe, come say hi to Cesar. Yeah, well, how have you met Lise Davidson?
I have met her, but I have never spoken to her. We're always on passing to different rehearsals, so we have said hello. Yeah.
Oh. Are you an accompanist for any of the star, upcoming stars over there? Working with anybody directly, like Martin Katz worked with Marilyn Horne, that kind of thing?
I see. Not as of now. I work mostly with the chorus, and I play rehearsals in the productions. I think the one star that I can identify that is coming through that path right now is Lisa, and she's not a resident singer here, so she comes in as a guest usually. We will see. We have an ensemble here, but none of them, I mean, this is a bit terrible of me to say, but I don't think any of them is in the same stardom path as Lisa. We have a great ensemble here, mostly Norwegian singers, but she is a special case. I hope I get to work with her soon. I know that she's coming back, and we just had our new music director announced, and he collaborates with Lisa very often. Our new music director is Ed Gardner, English conductor, and he and Lisa collaborate very often. In fact, they recorded an album together here a couple months ago. So I hope we get to collaborate soon.
Okay. And how do I shut my mic off?
We can do that for you.
How do you shut the mic off?
I do it for you. Done.
There we go. Okay, well, we have a shout out from Bob and Terry Ryan. They didn't want to go live on a mic, but they just wanted to send love and say hello.
So much love back to you, Bob and Terry. I miss you. And I look forward to seeing you when I'm in San Francisco soon.
A question from Stephen Connie Ziles. They want to get, they say, Great overview of the Stipendiaten program. I'm curious when you performed the Hegi music and what was it?
Oh, the Hegi music in Bayreuth, I was practicing. I needed a room to practice, but that was one of the unlucky productions that was canceled, not for COVID, in Oslo. So we were supposed to open our 2021-22 season in Oslo with Dead Man Walking by Hegi, and we did all of the rehearsal process. We had a wonderful cast, a wonderful conductor named Karen Kamensek, who conducted the Grammy-nominated Agnaten at the Met. Karen was here. We did the full process. She was here past the premiere date, but ultimately the strike made it so that the production had to be canceled. And it wasn't postponed. It was canceled because it had already been postponed from the year before. That was sad. But we did get to work on Dead Man Walking here in Oslo right the week after I arrived from Bayreuth.
Yeah. There's another shout out from one of your friends. Bernice Lindstrom says hi.
Huge hug, Bernice. Thank you for coming.
Can you hear me? I hope.
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
A big hug to you, Cesar, and thank you for such a wonderful presentation. And I hope to see you in San Francisco or New York sometime soon, if
I hope
possible.
so. Yes, can't wait for that to happen.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Bernice. We had a question from Paul in New York. He wants to know if there's any Wagner coming up in Oslo. I don't think I saw any, but there was like a Janufa and some other great operas, but I didn't see any Wagner. Am I wrong?
Yes, if anyone asks from the Norwegian Opera House, don't tell them that I told you, but I think it should be public information. I just haven't seen it in the website yet, but we have a third act of Parsifal coming up in the fall.
Oh, that's nice.
Give
me a good reason to go there.
It is something new. We didn't know about it until very recently. They announced all of the fall season, but there's a couple of things missing there. So when you go on the website, if you see the fall season and it's missing a Ballo in Maschera and a Parsifal, then those are part of our upcoming season. And it's Parsifal Act 3.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I don't see any new messages out there. You did a really good job because we're reaching out to the Opera Center this year to try and tap into them and make it known what we're doing with these the Stipendiat program. And so I'm really looking forward to, I'm trying to organize a real-time visit with somebody over there, because I think it's important they know that this is available. And there's no other way to get a Stipendiaten than to go through a Wagner Society. You can't apply directly.
Yes.
So let's see if we got another
I have one here. John Hickler. Aloha
Yes.
from Honolulu. Hello. Did I see any fierce booing? I did not, but I did see a lot of faces. I'm going to quote one of the Stipendiaten who was from Germany. And my take when I watched it was like, oh, this director wants to push the buttons of people to make them think about everything. But her take was this director is celebrating what happened. And she said, I feel disgusting clapping for this. So I did see some, mostly young German people, very uncomfortable, but I did not see the booing. It did not happen this time.
Super. Well, yeah, I've been to a president attended 3 times and I heard booing. But, any plans to conduct Wagner? I think that's really not up to you, is it?
Oh my God, if it's up to me, I would love to. We will see what the future brings. I would not say no to it. I would love to. I had the pleasure of doing an act 2 of Tristan here, not conducting it, but I played it. It was a dream casting. We had Irene Teorin as Isolde. We had Stephen Milling as King Mark, and we had, oh my gosh, I forgot his last name, and we are friends. How is this possible? I left him for last because he is one of our Clay Hilly. Clay Hilly. We have seen him in San Francisco. He went to Berlin after here, and he just started doing Siegfrieds and Sigmunds everywhere. And he had his, I think probably, his first his first take at Tristan here. I think you can still find the recording somewhere online, or a fragment of it. And he did a wonderful job, and it was so great. And from my side as a pianist, it was so much pressure, and it was so fun because there was one rehearsal with piano. So I had one shot at it. That was with Ed Gardner conducting. It was wonderful. A goal, yes. I have a goal of conducting as much as I can, Paul, but I don't want to take the risky way, which would be abandoning the keys to focus on the baton. I want to wait and for it to be as organic as I can. I don't think I can stop playing, and I think it would be a little dangerous at this point of my career. So I have decided that I will either mostly play and conduct sometimes, or at some point to do both, but to let it flow from the keyboard and not by leaving the keyboard.
Okay, at this point in time, you can go on doing Q&A and so on. I have to step out right now because I have another thing to do, a sad thing to do. And so I have to leave and go over to San Francisco. So I'm going to leave right now, and I'm going to let you go ahead and continue and have Emma there to help you out. And I want to say goodbye to everybody until next time. Thank you for attending, and I will step out now and turn it over to Thank you, Cesar. It was wonderful.
Okay. It's my pleasure, Terry.
And I'm so glad you didn't have to sleep in a crappy dorm room.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I want to share my experience of the Maestro singers at Bayreuth. It brought me to tears. I was so shaken. I couldn't even get up. I was crying when this huge head came down. And they put a smaller head, the same head was on the shoulders of Bestmeyer, right?
Yes.
Bestmeister. Yeah, Bestmeister. And then this huge head comes down and looks into the hole as a rebuke, as a reminder. There was nothing offensive about it. It was a terrific find for the director. And so in the next intermission, I went down and I found Barry Koskin. And I talked to him, and they kissed him and hugged him. And it was wonderful.
Yes.
And this remains one of the best moments of my operatic life, so to speak. I've been an opera goer on all my life, but this stands out as something outstanding.
I agree with you. And the scene where they put the head on Beckmesser is absolutely heart-wrenching. I agree with you. It's heavy. It's wonderfully heavy. I really enjoyed, and it touched me a lot to watch that as well. Yeah.
I found that conducting, well, at the director's request, obviously, in the third act at the competition, when Beckmesser sings. And all of a sudden, I said, oh, my God, that's a Jewish prayer he's singing.
Yeah.
They just accented it differently.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's a prayer. I went home. I listened to other renditions. And I now I'm hearing it, but only because I heard it done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't hear it.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It was wonderful. So I want to be a stipendiat too. It looks like a wonderful experience. What do I need to do?
It was. I would go back if I could. Yes. It was quite wonderful. It goes by very fast. And the days are packed very full. I had to miss a couple events. They had a tour through the gardens, and I had to miss a couple because of what I had coming up in Oslo. I had to take some time and practice, but they make sure that you get the most out of your week. It's quite wonderful. And Stephanie Colmer is wonderfully organized and always available for everyone. It's very nice.
How would you say this trip and this experience influence you looking forward? What did it give to you in your toolbox?
Many things. first of all, the obvious and the obvious, because I spoke about it, which is the networking with fellow stipendiats. And I think that was special of a smaller group, because then had I been with 200 people, I don't think I would have had time to talk to anyone, because there would have been too many things and too many people around. But with this smaller group, we had time to sit down, share opinions, share careers, make contacts. So that's one. Second, it kind of became a soft goal of mine to work at one of these festivals eventually. And I work here in Oslo with people who have worked and who currently work at that festival, singers and conductors, pianists that have been there. And I think it would be a great experience to get to do it at some point. I don't know if I will ever do it in Bayreuth, but any of those festivals that happens, Bayreuth, Salzburg, Lucerne, we will see. But it put a seed in me, and like it would be wonderful to do this as well, to bring everything on a summer to a place where we just celebrate the works of art of this. I also learned a lot that I didn't pay much attention to before historically, and what it meant for the Wagner not seen as a musician, all of his conflict with his opinions about Jewish people, the whole controversy about his relationship with the Nazi regime, and the relationship about his connections, his professional connections and everything. There, people make sure that you study how that was even before you enter the theater. People from Bayreuth, and it was very illuminating on how to deal with a story that it can be problematic, but that definitely needs to not be forgotten. So it was inspiring in that way, when you relate art and what art means into other parts of life.
We got a question from Paul Daschlager. Any thoughts on Christian Tillman?
I think he's one of the best opera conductors, one of the best conductors we have in the world right now. I don't know exactly why, but I am told that he is one of the conductors that tries not to have any mentees. That he does his own thing, and that part makes me a little sad, because it would be wonderful if conductors like him could take under their wing someone who follows and who learns from them. But I've been told that he's not on board with that. But I do think that he's one of the greatest that we have right now. He's knowledgeable. He when you watch him in interviews or talking about what he does, he has an absolutely clear path of how he approaches and what he wants. Musically and artistically, I'm a fan of him. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, but I admire his work tremendously.
Okay, folks, do we have more questions to Cesar? People loved you. In the chat, there's a lot of love messages for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and well, thank you for coming and sharing this experience with us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Karen, Candace, and Mary, and everyone, and Bernice. It's so lovely to see the names. I'm sorry I don't get to see all the faces, but it's a pleasure to come and chat with you guys, and I hope that we stay in touch.
We'll stay in touch. We have plans for you. You need to do something wonderful. So we invite you again, and tell us about your wonderful adventures.
Amazing. And in the meantime, if any of you comes to Oslo, please make sure to send me a note.
We will, right? Yeah. And say hello to Vigalon from me.
Will
Statues
do.
of Vigil. Will do? Okay, great.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. And next time, we'll see you in April. We'll talk about pianos. Okay. We'll send you an invitation, Cesar, if you have any questions, professional questions. All right.
I will try to comment. Definitely recommend the Steingraber talk to everyone.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm closing.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.